Hi, I'm Matt, and on this week's Friday 5, I'll be sharing with you my top 5 tips for user testing. You first need to decide, what do I need to know? This may sound obvious, but you need to have this objective in mind throughout the entire process to make sure that the results that you're going to get are going to be successful. This could be as simple as making sure that a rebranding choice is still going to work with your target audience, or that users are easily able to purchase one of your products. If you don't take that time to do this and go straight into testing, what we found is that you will of course get data off the back of it, but this may not be actionable or even necessary. There are many different types of testing out to help you, from surveys to focus groups to face-to-face user testing sessions. There are pros and cons to each of them, including turnaround time, quality of the results, and of course, cost. If what you're trying to find out is feedback such as customer satisfaction or willingness to recommend your product and need a large set of respondents, then this may be the perfect choice for a survey. This is what we call quantitative data and is great for finding that out, however, lacks the ability to dig further into their answers. On the other hand, if testing something like the checkout process of your store, something more involved for your users, then you may want to use a qualitative testing process, like remote testing or face-to-face. With these qualitative testing methods, you tend to require a much smaller set of users to do your testing. However, they do have an increased cost as you will need to recruit them. With any type of user testing, you'll need to make sure that you come up with a list of questions or tasks that will help you answer that first initial question of, what do I need to know? This, however, can be more difficult when creating tasks for user testing sessions, as you also need to make sure that you don't give anything away in the task which may contaminate your results. Our advice to help with this is to try and think of actionable tasks for them to take, but present them to them as scenarios. An example of this would be, you want to return an item, rather than go to the returned policy page. One thing that you'll want to be aware of though, is how many tasks or questions you're going to ask them to go through. One thing that we found is that when this is more exhaustive, you may find disengagement or even dropout if it's an online survey. At this point, you decided what you want to achieve from user testing, what type of tests you want to do, and have your questions and tasks all prepared. Now all you need is people to do the testing. If you are planning on doing an on-site survey, that's going to be your audience pretty much chosen for you. However, if you're going to do one of the other types where you have to recruit people, you need to make sure that you get them from the right audience. For example, if your site or app is targeted purely at people in the medical field, the opinion of a teacher or a plumber isn't going to be as helpful. Not every test is that specific, of course. However, when you need a certain type of person, we recommend working with a recruitment agency to help source the right person for you. Criteria doesn't need to just be about what industry you work in. It can also be age groups, interests, or whether they use similar product to yours. But one thing you do need to be aware of when recruiting is that the more specific you are, can increase the costs. I'm not going to lie, this can actually be the hardest part of user testing. We've already talked about how you need to avoid giving away instructions in your tasks and questions. However, this can be a lot harder when actually performing the test itself. Now, if the user is struggling with a given task, you must resist the urge to give them pointers, no matter how tempting it is. You should have users think out loud throughout the entire process. This will actually give you the most information about what they're thinking throughout the task, and even if they're going down an incorrect route, can actually give you some of the most useful information as you find out things that are wrong with your site or service. A technique that we find useful in these situations is to try and answer questions with other questions. An example of this is, should I go here? Instead of answering that directly, why not try answering what makes you think that you should go there? And don't be afraid if there are moments of silence, especially on more difficult tasks. Give the user a moment, let them prepare, and then ask them, what are you currently thinking? That's all from me. There's lots more about this on the blog. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and thanks for watching.